Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Eyeway Encounters. We are meeting just before the World Disability Day, and I see that there are people from Kashmir, there are people from Delhi, Maharashtra, and other parts of India. So welcome all of you. And Eyeway Encounters is a kind of 45 minutes talk that we have with the guest speaker every last Friday of every month. And the idea is that our speaker either speaks about a particular topic, about a personal experience, or about various things that they might be involved in. It's a knowledge sharing kind of occasion. And we have people from all over who log in to listen. And the speaker normally speaks for 45 minutes. And then there would be a Q&A session where you can either put your questions in the chat box, or you can press Alt-Y and raise your hands. And Shabnam, who will moderate the question and answer session, will unmute you and you can ask your questions. So Eyeway is a project that Score Foundation does. We are an NGO based out of Delhi, and Eyeway is an information resource on life with blindness. We have a helpline, which is 1-800-53-20469. And we take calls in Hindi, in Marathi, in Kannada, in Malayalam, in Kashmiri, in Urdu. And we're hoping that we will be able to take calls in other languages also going forward. We also do activities on social media, and we produce a podcast every week called 3 times a month, called Eyeway Conversations. If you want to subscribe or you want to receive it, you can put your name and number on the chat box. So today our guest is, let me put on my video so you can see me too. Yeah, so today our guest is Mr. Shivanand Manthalkar from Mumbai. He works with a bank, and I met him first in 1998, I think. Yep. When I was organizing the first ever World Cup of Cricket for the Blind. And Shivanand Manthalkar got in touch with me and said that he wanted to give commentary at the venues. So 2 blind gentlemen, one is Shivanand Manthalkar and the other was a gentleman called Pradeep Balgi, who actually gave commentaries of the various World Cup matches that were played in different venues at Delhi. And that was the first time I met Shivanand, and I was very impressed with his command over the language, both in English and Hindi, and also his knowledge and passion for cricket. So that was a very good platform where both of us had invested in. And after many years, close to 24 years, he called me up the other day and he said that he had gone to the base camp of Mount Everest. And I said, that is fascinating, and would you like to share? And he said, sure. So what I understand and what I've my interaction with Shivanand has revealed that while he is a banker by profession, he is an outdoor man otherwise. He goes out for treks. He goes out for mountaineering expeditions. He also is involved with cycling and long distance running. I share a couple of those passions with him. I also do a little bit of long distance running. And so it's good to have you, Shivanand, on the show. And I will also say, till a few years ago, Shivanand and his wife, Fatima, also used to go out on these outdoor adventures. So, Shivanand, the platform is yours. Take it away.
Yeah. Thank you, George. Thank you, Eyeway. And very good evening to all of you, and welcome. Well, as George told you all about my name and a bit about me, I'll just give some more information about myself, and we'll talk about my hobbies and then later we can have question answer session. Well, I'm visually impaired. I have a congenital cataract. I'm partially sighted, and I'm a good partially sighted actually. I can see up to uh, around 10, 7 to 10 feet or so, and that gives me an advantage. Um, I work with State Bank of India as a uh, assistant manager communication. I joined the bank way back in 91 as a telephone operator. Um, and now when there was promotion in my cadre, so I took the opportunity because becoming a banker officer, actual real banker officer, I thought could be a challenge. So just waited for the right opportunity. I'm 52 years old, rather will be completing 52 this February. So that is that, and I'm at Navi Mumbai at GITC Belapur, and very close by at Seawoods I reside. So that is a small introduction about myself. Further, to add to it, I would just like to tell about my schooling and all. I did my schooling in a sighted school. I had a very difficult time studying with the general students. I studied in Kendriya Vidyalaya uh, in Nagpur. Born in Pune, but as we moved to Nagpur, my father was working for Ordnance Factory Ambajari as an accounts officer, so transferable job. So we moved to Nagpur. In '84, I moved to Mumbai and studied further in Kendriya Vidyalaya Kolivada. And then I went to NAB, took my telephone operators uh, training course, and I was lucky enough to get a job with State Bank of India as a telephone operator. That was in 1991. And then
I just wanted to jump in here. How did you get interested in running and these outdoor activities that many of us as blind people hesitate to get involved? How did you get involved, and what are the kind of activities on the outdoor that you got into?
Yeah, I was just coming to that. Basically, there are 4-5 activities that I'm very much interested in, which I'm quite regularly doing, and I enjoy doing. First of all is the trekking and mountaineering. Now let's talk about trekking and mountaineering for a while.
Let's one sec. Let's do it the other way around. Let's talk about the other action, and then we'll spend time on trekking and mountaineering, if that is okay.
Yeah, even that can be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about other activities first. Um, well, long distance running, I don't know. It was way back in 2000, 1 second, I'm just losing it. In 1999, I got connected with Samarthanam, and I was told that there is an American group coming to India, and they want to do the Himalayan run and trek. It was a 100-mile race that we had to participate in. and they were looking for one Indian athlete also who is visually impaired. On and off, since I was doing trekking, to keep oneself fit, you do um, run a little. So the practicing running always helps. So I said yes to it, and it was an ultra marathon in Darjeeling at Sandakpur at around 12,000 feet, and we had to run a 100-mile stage race. So that I did.
So this 100 miles is quite a long distance. Even the marathon is only 42 miles, sorry, 26 miles. So how did you prepare for this 100-mile run? Because there's a lot of miles.
Yeah, it was a stage race. One had to complete this in 5 days. Plus, there was a Mount Everest Challenge Marathon also, which was clubbed with this for these 5 days that we were doing. I used to do running practice every day, and I was doing marathons which were happening in Mumbai.
Like
And
like the Mumbai half marathon and so on, the standard chartered.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Nowadays, I do half marathons, but those days, in my younger days, I was doing full marathons, standard chartered full marathons, at least 4 or 5 full marathons I have done, standard chartered marathons.
So how long does it? What's your best timing in the 26-mile run? I mean, how much? How long did you take?
No, I used to take quite a lot of time, around 5.5 hours or so. Um, but I used to try and complete it. I used to find it very difficult to finish the race, but I used to stick to my guns and just do it. I think 5 hours 26 minutes was one of the best, and yeah, around that time. And
Did you run alone or did somebody run with you?
no, I used to run alone. It's very difficult to find any uh, runner as an escort, especially for the 42. So I used to run on my own. Yes, George?
Yeah. You took to running. So how did that prepare you for the 100? So back to the 100-mile Himalayan run. So what was the kind of did you actually think you could complete 100 miles in 5 days? Because even running 5 days, 100 kilometers is running maybe an average of 20 kilometers a day, the 20 miles a day, which means maybe close to 40 kilometers. 40
Yeah,
kilometers. Yeah.
Yeah, and that too in the mountains, not on the plain. So it was very, very difficult. It was one of the brutal races that I have done, I would say. And I was not sure, and I just spoke to our group leader, and he said, just see if you can do it. Otherwise, you can just hang around with us, and that would be fine. But I said, when I have, I said to myself, I am going to do it, come what may. And the first day was very, very difficult. It was very steep, and um, it became dark while I was trying to finish. Many of athletes had quit. One Tim from our group, he was a black, and he quit. He gave up. He said, I don't want to do it anymore. It was very, very difficult. and it was becoming cold, and my hands were freezing, and I just kept going, and literally I was crawling to finish the line on the first day. And when I did it, I had tears in my eyes. Uh, they all had gathered and they were waiting for me. And they took me inside, and they put all blankets on me, and they gave me hot water to drink and coffee and all that. Uh, then later, the next 4 days, I could hang in and I could do it. Uh, but then my knee had started to trouble, and again the fourth day, and on the that is penultimate day, and on the fifth day, I was struggling a bit, but with a kneecap on, I finished the race. So that was one of the toughest, I would say. Then
So one question here,
yeah,
when you
yeah,
run, running at 12,000 feet is not something that we do on a daily basis. So for this high altitude running, where A, you mentioned the cold, B, you mentioned the terrain was steep, C, what you did not mention probably was the oxygen levels. Oxygen levels also would have been less, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
But
how do you prepare for such a race, for such a run?
no, but to tell you what, I mean, I do a lot of treks. I go for treks in Sahyadri uh, mountain ranges, which is a backyard for all the Mumbaiites. So
Yeah.
every weekend, we would decide, let's go on a trek, and 4 or 5 of us would gather, and we would just go for a trek. Sometimes we would do a night trek. Sometimes we would do a trek for 2 days. If it's to go and stay in a cave and come back the next day. All those things we do. So when you go on a high altitude, this helps you. Um, your cardio it helps you, because you are on and off. You are doing these smaller ones before you try something like this. So I guess that was the reason why I could sustain, and it was not so troublesome as far as high altitude sickness is concerned. And also, high altitude sickness starts much later, after, after around 14,000 and all that. So 1250, yes, that also can be troublesome for those who are coming from sea level, or who do not do any treks or anything. But yes, I mean, if you are a trekker, I think you
So
can manage.
So did you have to go there a few days in advance before you actually had the run, or you just landed up there the day before and ran?
Uh, Actually, just a day before we landed, Bagdogra, that is the place, that's the airport where we landed, and we stayed for a night, and the next day the run was there. So hardly any uh, time for acclimatization, but yes, I could do it finally. I was very happy that I completed it, and didn't throw my towel in.
And did you have to? What was the kind of clothing that you wore? Because you don't wear shorts and t-shirt. You must have been. What was it that you're wearing?
Actually, sir, when you're running, even in the cold, your body tends to become warm, and you don't feel it that much. Only after 4 or after 5, when it starts becoming dark, and the temperature starts falling, that you start feeling the cold. So that time you can wear a jumper or a monkey cap, but that too just to cover your ears. But since you're running throughout, it doesn't really affect you that much.
So at the end of it, meaning, did you want to run another similar race later on in your life, or that was one was good enough for you?
Yes, I never got an opportunity to do an ultra after that, but I started running these Standard Chartered marathons, from 2004 onwards till 2007. Every Standard Chartered marathon that they would be organized, I would take part in that. More also because I was involved with an organization called Samaritans International.
Yeah,
It's an NGO,
yeah.
and it works for suicide prevention. And I was a volunteer there. So to spread that message, I would like to. I used to run those marathons, and also it was a passion. So it was, both the things that I was trying to do. So that way it
So,
was.
so we talked about the ultra marathon. We talked about the Bombay Standard Chartered Marathon. So, what are the other outdoor action that you're involved in?
Yeah, nowadays I a little bit about these marathons only. Nowadays I prefer to do 21, and just recently, last Sunday, I did the Navy run. I clocked 2 hours 31 minutes and 18 seconds for 21. And then before that, I had done another Navi Mumbai marathon, which was in the last month. There I struggled a bit. The timing was not so good. I took more than 2 hours 45 minutes. Um, so, and now again I'm planning to do the Tata Marathon, uh, 21 again. So these runs I continue to do, and I daily try to practice and run at least 3 to 5 kilometers, uh, and every week at least 10 kilometers. So that is how I try and practice.
So,
So
so
that
what you're saying is that on a daily basis you run 2 to 5 kilometers,
yeah, yeah,
and once a week you run 10 kilometers.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, I was given to understand that the recovery time is more, after you're 50. So someday I will do cycling, someday I will do uh, running. Uh, so if I have done a big run like 21 and all, I would take 2 3 days off. But swimming, I go daily 6:30, 6:30, quarter to 7, I have to be in the pool. So for an hour, I will swim, and after that, I will decide whether I should go for cycling or running. Every alternate day I would do so. In the morning, uh, it is a daily activity of mine to swim and either to run or to cycle. So that is how my day starts. Um,
So why don't you? Is there any other meaning? You said swimming, and when you talk about swimming, cycling, and running, you also have an event called the triathlon. Have you ever thought of doing the triathlon?
Swimming, I have just taken up, sir, and you need to be a very good swimmer to compete in a triathlon. And I learned swimming at a much later age, so it becomes a little difficult swimming for that long. But I don't know, maybe in future, if I improve on my swimming, I might even think of trying a triathlon. But at this moment, I really don't think I will be able to take part in a triathlon, because in a triathlon, I think minimum they ask you to swim for 1.5 kilometers. So that is and non-stop you have to go. So that can be quite challenging because uh, you haven't have had much practice, and also you have started to swim much later, so it can be really, really very challenging.
So while doing your swimming, running, and your running, your
Cycling,
cycling,
cycling.
How does your vision impairment, does it pose a challenge, or are there ways around that you have kind of designed for yourself?
Uh, well, swimming, it doesn't really matter much how much you can see. Any partially sighted can manage it quite well. Even a totally blind person. Uh, See, you get to know the surrounding, you get to know the pool, you get to know the people who are around you. So once they understand that you have a visual impairment, sometimes you have to tell them, because there can be a misunderstanding. They may wish you and you may not respond. So these are the very little and small challenges that one might face. But otherwise, as far as swimming goes, I don't think there should be any problem for a partially, or for, even for that matter, a totally blind. As far as cycling is concerned, the kind of vision that I have, I, I, I can identify objects or things which are there on the road or which are moving on the road. So I do not face any problems. Um, but a low partially person has to be a little careful, and uh, they can practice on uh, roads which do not have much traffic, or they can have an assistant or a cyclist friend who can assist them. And as far as totally blind cyclists are concerned, they can use a tandem cycle, and they can cycle with someone. So it is really getting very popular these days, tandem cycling. And a lot of blind friends of mine are actively involved in it. So, well, this is how I would put it for visually impaired people if they want to try all these things.
When you cycle at high speed, even having partial vision is quite dicey, because you see things at a limited distance and you're traveling at speed. So to react to something on the road might be more challenging. So do you do any high speed cycling, or it's regular cycling?
Well, in 4 hours, I went for 80 kilometers. Um, so it's 20 kilometers per hour. So that was my highest speed I clocked. Otherwise, there is a group called Pedal for a Cause. So for them, we cycle, and we are in a group. So there are able-bodied people, those who have proper vision, they are with you. Some are cycling, some are ahead of you, some are behind you. So you are taken care of. But yes, if you are exploring an unknown territory, yes, you should not try to cycle at a very great speed, because sometimes there are potholes, or sometimes suddenly somebody might come in front, and you may encounter a very difficult situation. So I would suggest that when you are cycling, you should always have a cyclist friend, or you should cycle with a group. So that will help you.
Okay, before we get to the Himalayan base camp, talk about some of your treks.
Yes, I will. As I told you, I started trekking in the Sahyadri range, and have done quite a few treks in Sahyadri range. One moment.
You've
I
jotted down
was,
these, it appears.
yeah. Some of the getting old, sir. The trekking in Sahyadri, well, that is how it all started. there was a there were a few organizations by the name by the names NSCB, National Sports Club of the Blind, then Young Zingaro, then YHI Malad Group. These groups would organize a lot of treks in and around Sahyadri, and I started doing them 1-day treks, 2-day treks. Some would be 3, 4, or 5-day treks. So a lot of them I have done. I mean, I have lost count how many treks I have done. So, and that is how I met my wife, because even she would come for trekking, and that is where we met actually, and decided to get married. So, apart from these treks, um, uh, then I did one trek at this. I would like to mention because I did the trek with a very special person at Dimna in Jamshedpur. I had gone and uh, we had trekked the Dimna mountain uh, with Bachendri Pal. So I was very happy and I was very excited to be with her and to walk with her and to trek with her and to interact with her. So apart from that, I did a basic mountaineering course um, with uh, with the WHMI, Western Himalayan Mountaineering Institute. I had gone with my brother. Um, so it was one of the very, very tough uh, course that I did. We were at Manali for at WHMI for almost a month or so, and we were taught a lot of things. Trekking and mountaineering, it's slightly different. Mountaineering is it's actual climbing, but trekking is just you trek the trails and the mountains. So in mountaineering, you actually climb the peaks and all that. So all that stuff was taught to us. I never told them that I'm visually challenged, and so did my brother, and we hung in there and we did it. So that was the toughest thing ever I tried. I understand that NEEM, Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, this which is at Uttarakhand, they conduct mountaineering courses for visually impaired, and Fatima has done that course from NEEM. And there is one more HMI which is in Darjeeling. So I kind of know about these three organizations. Then they have an advanced course. Then they also have a trainer's course. But I didn't go for those. I did this basic mountaineering course. So if anybody wants to try that, they can go with this NEEM, Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, and do the course which is meant for visually impaired.
So I have a question here.
Yes,
You
sir.
mentioned that the basic mountaineering course that you did with WHMI, uh, and that's when you mentioned that trekking is different from climbing, from mountaineering. Trekking is essentially walking through different kind of terrains,
Correct. Correct.
while mountaineering is actual climbing. So, what are the techniques specifically, if you have to list out a few techniques that the course taught you, and what were the kind of assignments they gave you to kind of learn these techniques?
Well, just to name a few, um, one was rock climbing that they taught. Then river crossing, they would put a rope. Okay, rock climbing, they had a huge wall, and they had uh, they had made a certain uh, there were certain blocks, and you with your bare hands you had to uh, climb the wall. That was quite tough, and And then you have to learn to river cross. So they would put a harness around your back, and then there would be a rope across the river, and you have to put your legs around the rope, and also with your hands you have to move and cross the river. So that is another thing that they taught. Then they teach you rappelling. You are on the top of the mountain, and then with the harness and with the rope, they protect you. They put you a helmet and all that, and then you have to rappel down the mountain. That is uh, another thing that they teach. And using ice axe when there is a lot of ice, um, how you have to move uh, uh, through the terrain in a very icy and a very cold terrain. Uh, that is being taught, how to use the ice axe and all that. So these are a few of the basic things that they teach you, which is not really required when you are just trekking.
Yeah, these are obviously when you have to encounter a big rock or a nice wall or steep climb, I guess, where you can't go up on your 2 feet. You have to crawl, I guess. You have to go on all fours.
Yeah. And to mention a few more treks that I have done, see,
Yeah.
if anyone is interested, they can actually join YHAI group. They have lovely treks. It is again, it is an NGO, non-profit, no profit, no loss organization. So you go with them for treks. Their treks are beautiful. I have done quite a few. Just I will name a few quickly. Sarpas I have done with Fatima. Probably we might be the only visually impaired couple who must have done Sarpas. It is 14,000 something. I don't remember the exact figure. Then I did Dalhousie trek with Fatty again. Then Sarkundi Pass is there. All this is in Himachal. Then I did a desert trek in Jaisalmer, uh, a different kind of thing, trekking in the desert. It is totally different from what you do when you're climbing the mountains. Then I went to Mizoram for a trek at Northeast. So that was something different. Uh, it was more to explore the area than to actually trek. There was nothing much to trek, but it has its own significance. So that's why I'm mentioning. And then I did a beach trek. Goa. It was organized by Goan YHIs. So we walked right from the top till we reached Karnataka, and we went into the Karnataka woods. That is how the trek ended. So walking throughout all the beaches from Goa, right from the top. So that is another thing. So these are a few of the major treks that I have done, which I thought I should mention.
How did you think about going to the base camp of Mount Everest?
Well, I will tell you that I was scared. I was very, very scared, and I had heard all kinds of stories about that trek, that it is very difficult, and some of the trekkers they never come back. Even in this trek, there were posters everywhere. There were two of the trekkers were missing. One from Korea, Korean girl, and one Indian trekker boy. So I had heard that the cold is very extreme. You feel as though your nails are coming off. Your feet don't move. Um, all sorts of things. So I never found anybody, or never thought of it, and kept it postponing, or it somehow never happened. But one of my friend, he called me and he thought that I have done this trek, and he said, Everest base camp trek kitna difficult hai, or मैं कर पाऊंगा क्या? Then I said, sorry boss, I have always dreamt of it, and I always wanted to do it, but I have never done it. And then we both said, let's do it then. So that is how we decided to do the trek. One
So how
thing
did you prepare for it? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
one thing I would like to mention here is that it has become a brand name, Everest Base Camp. And earlier, the kind of facilities that were on the trail were not so great than what they are now. Of course, it is one of the very, very difficult treks. It is the mother of all treks, I would say. But things have improved a little, so one can give it a shot, I would say. Yeah, I'm sorry I cut you, George. What was your question?
I just want to know, how did you, okay, one thing to decide that you're going on a trek. What is the kind of paperwork you needed to do, and what is the kind of physical preparations you needed to do to actually be equipped and permitted to go on such a trip?
Well, permitted, I would answer that first. It is open for all. There are private organizations which take booking, and then you can book the trek. But and if you are not able to complete it, you're not able to complete it. It's like that. I mean, they will bring you back to the base, and it is at your own risk you are going. Like I see, for instance, just now I remembered. I'll share this with you. There was a group of doctors, lady doctors from Andheri, Mumbai, who had gone for a trek, and one of them could not bear the altitude sickness, and she passed away. So all these scary stories, when you hear, it is very difficult. Yeah, we kept trekking in Sahyadri every now and then, every weekend, whenever we got an opportunity, we kept trekking. And the worst part was, I will quickly share that I injured my leg, and I went for an MRI, and there was a muscle tear, and I was struggling to walk also, but I had enough time to recuperate and come back, and finally I could do it. So trekking we did. Apart from that, see, swimming and cycling helps a lot. All these things go together. See, you do a hard run, it's better to do a bit of swimming and bit of cycling, because those are the easy ones that you can try, and your body also gets enough rest, and you can come back, especially after 50. So these were the activities I was doing: running and trekking in Sahyadri, and bit of cycling, bit of swimming. So your cardio keeps working, so that is very important.
So in other words, your heart should be in good shape.
Yes.
Your body, and the body generally, physically, you need to have the stamina.
Yes. Excellent thing you have told.
And what about, do you have to carry loads also when you go on this trek to the base camp, or there are people who carry it for you?
Well, it goes like this. Maximum you're allowed to take 15 kgs. 10 kgs your porter will carry. The remaining 5 you have to carry on your back. So that is how it works.
So who arranges the porters for you?
The company where you book your trek, they arrange porters for you, and they also arrange a guide for you.
So how much does trip up to the base camp cost you?
It is quite an expensive one. The gear and equipment itself cost me around 50 K.
Yeah.
Then traveling, we traveled by air, and then you have to take two flights to actually reach Lukla, but the weather was bad, so we had to travel by helicopter. So that was again another expense of around 50K. And then the food is very expensive there. A hot cup of water would cost you around 250 Nepali rupees. So even the food was very expensive. The stay and the porter charges and the guide charges, that comes to around 35 or some 40. Okay, so it's quite an expensive trek,
1.5
but
lakhs or so.
yeah, around that. But
Hmm.
having
Hmm.
said that, if you want to try on your own,
Yeah.
instead of booking through any company, or what you can do is you can on your own reach there and find a porter and find a guide, hire them, and on the way you can ask the guide or the porter to do the booking. They are the locals uh, for the nights to stay, and you can do your own trek. So that should work out very cheap, and
And
that makes more sense, I feel.
how many days did this take? This when
This
you started walking?
this took us around 10 to 11 days. 2 days are for acclimatization. Um, so acclimatization is very, very important. You can't just keep going all the time. You have to stop and get used to the conditions, which is very important. Otherwise, if you have altitude sickness, you are actually brought down, and that is the only way. You start feeling nausea, headache, vomiting, loose motions. All this starts happening, and then the only way you can be taken care is by bringing you down. So you have to start the descent. So acclimatization is very important. That is what I want to tell you.
And what height is this base camp at?
Base camp is at around 18,000 some feet. Um, and then there is another peak which is near the base camp, which is Kala Pathar. I tried that also. From my group, nobody went for it. I was the only visually challenged person in the group. Um, but none of them tried. A couple was there. They went back halfway, and the other person who was with me, he didn't try. Only he said, "I'm too tired," and he gave up. Reaching Gorakshep, and then from there doing the Everest base camp. Um, then coming back and then again getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning. Hardly you sleep for a couple of hours, and then go and do Kala Pathar, which is tougher than Everest Base Camp and little higher, I feel. Yes, it is a little higher than Everest Base Camp, and the last part is totally brutal. I mean, I saw even the Westerners, trekkers from Europe uh, and Australia and all these places who were there were struggling. They were literally crawling. I came when I came down. So and it was freezing cold at 3 a.m. in the morning. We had to start. It was snowing. I had I had worn all, and the temperature was around -6. Uh, my guide, he had a headlamp. Even I was using one. I could barely see, and with his assistance, they kept going and going. And when I finished the trek, uh, where he when we came down to a certain distance, and it was uh, uh, it was becoming bright and we could see a little bit. He told me to, he wanted to take a few pictures. Of course, he took a few pictures on top also. Uh, I and then I told him my hands are getting numb, even in a thick leather gloves that I was wearing. You know, my hands were getting numb. I said I don't want to hang around here for long, so we started the descent. And, I was again. I thanked him, and I was in tears. And after clicking my picture, he just hugged me and he said, "You did it, sir. Do you remember you had asked me when you met me first whether whether I'll be able to do it or not, and you have done it." I said, "Credit goes to you actually that you were there with me." So he said, "No, your effort is also very valuable. Yes, of course I was there to guide you, but you did it." So this is how we talked, and then we came down, and
No,
then we started the descent to Periche and further to Namchi Bazaar. So very exciting it was.
so for us, can you kind of picturize or describe the, day 1 to day 11? What was the kind of terrain that you were traversing? What were the kind of techniques that you learned, which you had to use for this venture?
Well, it is beautiful. I tell you what, it is gorgeous. I mean, the scenic beauty and the people, and it's just beautiful. I mean, you feel like you are in heaven. You know. Of course, you have to be prepared to do the hard work. It is not going to come easy, but it is just beautiful. You get to see beautiful snowy mountains. You see mountains with a lot of greenery. You see high peaks around. Then you're walking through. Sometimes you're walking through rocky patches. Sometimes you're walking through forest area, and you go through villages, small villages. You meet locals there. Uh, it is just beautiful, and you and then there are a lot of bridges which come across, hanging bridges. It is a lot of fun walking on those hanging bridges.
When you say hanging bridges, what does that mean?
There is no support between the two mountains. They have used these wires, thick, heavy wires, and they have put a iron bridge, and it is totally hanging. And all these bridges are just hanging. So at least, if I remember correctly, at least more than 10, 15 bridges you.
When you cross these bridges, are there railings to hold, or you just walk across them?
No, there is a little bit of support there, but it just starts wobbling, and it's a different feeling. And then you have water flowing under the bridges, so it's just beautiful. I mean, you look at one side, the water is coming from one side, and it is going under the bridge, and it is going towards the other end. So with mountains all over, and it's just fantastic. I mean,
Did
no
you
words to describe. Yeah.
did you have any of your have the need for using any of your climbing techniques that you learned at WHMI?
Not really. It was a trek, but I would suggest that one should carry a walking stick. It helps you. It comes in as a support because there are a lot of boulders and rocky patches, and also at certain steep places. It was a kick-ass time, I tell you. At certain places, it was very, very difficult. Uh, so that stick really gives you a lot of support and help. Yeah, but not much of, yes. But since you are a trekker, so you know it. You know how to handle situation. So that's okay. So, but nothing like, mountain climbing, mountaineering or mountain climbing. All those techniques are not required here.
The Kala Patthar bit, did you need any kind of techniques there, or that was also a more extended trek?
It was more extended and more of a difficult trek because it was snow everywhere, even on the rocks there was snow. Uh, every step you put, you're not sure whether you got the right grip or not, and you have to be very careful, and because you might slip and have a bad fall. So and also it was very freezing, and you had to keep moving, otherwise you would freeze if you would stay there to take rest. So many people they don't try Kala Patthar. Some of them, they just give up. uh, I don't know, but I just went ahead and I did it, and I felt good about it, having done it.
The friend you called you to say that, asking you whether you had done the Everest base camp before, did he finish the trek, or he gave up halfway through?
He finished the trek. He he did the Everest base camp, but he didn't do the Kala Patthar. That's okay,
Yeah.
because yeah, it was his choice, and he was around 60. So I really actually appreciate his efforts that he put in, at that age, to try it out. Um, he would uh, nag me and tell me to go slow, sometimes. But in mountaineering, it does happen that, everybody has their own pace. Some people walk fast, some people walk slow. There are people who walk faster than me. So I have a feeling that, everybody has to go with their pace. That only then it works. I remember the dean of uh, Western Himalayan Mountaineering Institute met us after we had finished the trek, and he was saying that trekking and mountaineering is such a event where if you're going fast, people say, why are you going so fast? And if you go slow, people say, why are you so slow? So it just depends on person to person. Yes, and he took assistance of an additional porter. Uh, he loves photography, so he was not carrying any luggage with him. He paid extra for that porter, and he was walking just on his own with a camera. So he clicked a lot of pictures of mine. So that is how it was.
Last question. When you were up at 17 or 16,000, moving towards 18,000, any point of time, did you have to kind of maybe tie a rope or something with your guide who was also walking with you, or you were all kind of swinging your arms and walking independently?
The helping hand was always there. Without his help, it would have been very difficult, far more difficult. But no rope, nothing of that sort was required.
Just holding by the hand, that's all.
Holding by the hand, yes, holding by the hand.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we have, at least I have read about people like Eric Wenmeyer climbing Mount Everest. And, and I can imagine how difficult that would be, given the fact that outstanding, highly accomplished, acclaimed mountaineers like George Mallory actually died on the peak, attempting the either coming back or going up. People like him have passed away. So it is, I mean, this is truly an adventure, because there is a high degree of risk. I'd like to open the floor and see if any of our other audience would like to ask questions.
Yeah. Anybody wanting to ask, please go ahead, and I'm comfortable in Hindi also, even Marathi. So whatever you want to ask, you can ask.
Yes, we have Naveen who's raised his hand. Naveen ji, please go.
Yeah, yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Sivan. Thanks a lot for sharing your experiences, and it's very inspiring. I have two questions. I'll just ask you both the questions, then you can answer at your comfort. First is, as you said, your site is 7 to 10. Your site is 7 to 10 feet, uh, and the scenic beauties is much far away. So I just want to know. I mean, the guide or porter or someone describing you the scenic beauties around. And
Uh,
second question is, was there any specific safety measures or anything that they took because because of your limited sight? I mean, the porters or the guides, any specific measures that they took while you were trekking?
no, they didn't take any specific measures while I was trekking, but they knew it that I have got sight problem, because the moment I landed in Kathmandu and I met my guide, that was the first thing that I told him. And I said, I don't know, I'm not sure if I will be able to do it or not. And this is my issue. So he asked me how much you can see. Can you read this? Can you read that? Some boards in the hotel and all that, in the hotel lobby where we were standing. And then he said, let us see how it goes. And that was how it was. And as far as seeing the scenic beauty is concerned, see, sometimes you are not able to see properly, but you can feel it. And your friends are always there to mention what is around and all. They would say, hey, Shivanand, वो देख वहाँ पे ऐसा है. नहीं, मुझे नहीं दिख रहा है, कहाँ कहाँ पे क्या. Then they will say, then sometimes if you go closer, and sometimes you would guess, and you would get a feel of it, and that way. So yes, that is how it goes. But if there is someone to describe, nothing like it, I tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is that, when you see a beautiful scene from a distance, different people are able to see different details of that beauty.
Correct.
As visually impaired people, you might not be able to see the micro details. If there is a bird
Absolutely.
sitting on a tree, there'll be somebody else who will see it, but you will not be able to see it.
Now,
you'll just see a mass of color. So it's a different degree of what you see.
Yeah, I'll tell you one incident. We took a break at one particular place, and we were just having water and resting. So one of our porters says, "Sir, वो देखो ऊपर कोने में एकदम edge पे बकरी खड़ी है." I said, "Come on, yeah, I cannot make out where that bakri is. But anyways, as long as it's safe and it's fine, I have no problem." So these things happen, but that's okay. It was a very minute observation, for them also to spot it. So I don't know. Yeah, sometimes you miss things, so that's okay. I mean, that's how it is. But you can always feel and enjoy and make the best of it, rather than
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks a lot for your answers.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I know that I appreciate that everybody sees a picture in the frame in their own sense.
Exactly. A picture says 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Even if it is described, you may not. And how do you perceive that thing is also another perspective to it. So
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
yeah, welcome.
And thanks to Eyeway to take such sessions. Thanks.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Anyone else?
Shivanand, I would like to ask a question.
Yeah.
What according to you are 5 mental traits required to become a mountaineer or to do something that you have achieved?
5 mental traits.
It could be even less or more. I'm just asking.
Yeah, okay. See, the first thing is, it's all here.
Okay.
Can you see? I mean, it's all in
Yes,
your
it's
mind.
all in the mind. Yeah.
If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. You know, if you first see, even when you run a marathon, you should believe in yourself that you can do it. First, the belief is very important. Secondly, you have to be mentally very strong. One and the same thing, rather.
Right.
So that is the thing. Then
Okay.
the rest of the things come later. Whether you have a back issue, whether you have eye problem, whether you have some problem with your leg, then so first thing, it is all here. So
Mental
once it is
toughness.
once it is sorted here,
Right.
then it all becomes very easy. So that is one thing. Secondly, see, it doesn't come in one day. You know, you have to, for anything for that matter, you know, if anything and everything that we do, it comes only by practice.
Okay.
Now, whichever part of the world you are staying in, you try to, if you want to take trekking as a hobby, just uh, start trekking, you know, with a friend or with a group, and you know, start the smaller ones and then slowly build yourself up.
Right.
And you know, then you start feeling that yes, I can do it, and then you can try for the bigger ones. And nowadays things have improved a lot compared to what they were earlier. Better shoes, better jackets,
Right.
good sleeping bags. Earlier all this stuff was not there, so it was more challenging. But yes, I mean, I have spent nights without food on the
Wow.
mountains. Yeah, I have had water, running water, which is coming through stones or something like that. You end up without water. Sayadri is a dry place, so
Right.
yeah. Sometimes you get stuck. Sometimes you get lost. You know, luckily it has not happened with me, but many of my trekker friends.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to be prepared for all this. You know, take the rough with the smooth. Uh, Kapadia, Harish Kapadia, who's a great trekker of
Mhm.
Sahyadri. And these are his words. You know, take the rough with the smooth. So the so practice and mental toughness, and you have to believe that you can do it. I
Right.
think these are the two important.
Did.
And then comes techniques and what to use, what not
Mhm.
to use, what are your drawbacks, what are your strong points, uh, and with as per that, you know, you have to work. And after doing certain treks, you know, you get a hang of it, and you know, okay, these are the things I should do, these are the things I should not do. Well, of course there are do's and don'ts
Right.
that you have to strictly follow, but for you as a person, you know, you
Right.
come to know okay, how you have to carry yourself and how you have to take care of yourself.
Okay.
So
And the
yeah,
first step is to, believe in yourself and be mentally
yes,
prepared and be mentally
yes,
tough.
yes.
Shivanand, this ultra marathon that you ran, was that road running or was it cross country?
It was in the terrain, it was in the mountains. It was not road running. Only the last 2 days it was on a road. So, but otherwise it was uh, running in the terrain in the mountains.
Oh, that makes it even more tough.
Yeah, it is very tough. It is very, very tough, sir. It is
Hmm.
very easy to run a marathon or a half marathon on the roads
Yeah,
than doing that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing the ultra marathon. Your vision also would have been challenging there because
Yes. Yes.
you have to
Yeah.
know what is in front of you.
Yes. Sometimes you fall. You know, all those things happen, but you have to take those things in your stride. Even while trekking, you sometimes slip, you fall. All these things happen. So part and parcel. So yeah, you have to live with all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Any more questions, or should we close? It's already 6 something.
15. No,
Yeah.
Six.
there's no one's hand raised right now. So I'm guessing
Okay.
we don't have any more questions.
Great. I think this was a wonderful conversation, and I think there was a lot of interesting insights that you shared as far as the outdoor space is concerned. And we do hope and we do believe that a lot of people have got some very useful tips and information, and also encouragement by the fact that you've done it. So why not So great.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks so
And
much,
yeah,
Shivanand.
one last thing before we close. I just want to tell the youngsters that it makes you a lot more independent, and you understand to take care of yourself rather than depending on others. So
Right.
do think about trekking as a hobby. It gives you a lot of courage and confidence, and also, as I mentioned, you become more independent. I want to thank Eyways and George and you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Want to thank all the participants who joined. I hope I was of some help to guide you about trekking and other activities that I do. Thank you.